Good evening, IL family, and welcome back to your Monday night broadcast. It's Lady Tamil here, and I want to welcome you guys back into another conversation on positive living via simple truths. And so on tonight, I am talking about striving for a more excellent way. And as I always tell you guys, I like to tell you how my discussions come about. And so I am trying to increase my traffic on Instagram, and I've been very persistent in trying to post the number of times I need to post. And one of the things that I've been noticing, I've been trying to build also some of the people that I follow on Instagram, and some of those people that are maybe in the same area of ministry or doing the same things that I'm doing. And one of the things that I noticed, like for me being a life coach, I was looking at someone who was a life coach, and I started looking at some of the pictures that were being put up and some of the things that we're doing. And one thing that came to mind for me is I know we want to put out the most excellent thing that we can put out, but sometimes I wonder about our message that goes along with the mission that we're trying to do. So as a life coach, we're here to encourage, we're here to help transition, we're here to talk through things, different life coaches focus on different things. And this is not about being a life coach on tonight, but I'm just using that for as an example on tonight. So it made me wonder about a lot of times, a lot of us are operating in various different businesses and ministries. And for the believer, whether you're in business or not, it's all about ministry. And so it's all about serving and helping someone and uplifting the kingdom and glorifying God. And so in that, I'm sitting and I'm looking at the different pictures that are being put out, and I'm wondering how sometimes the message that we send across, that perfection, that picture, those pictures of us, and we've got to get things staged just right, and we got to have everything just right in what we put out there. And I'm wondering, how is that message coming across in what it is that we are trying to help people in? And so if I'm here to help and to serve you, am I putting out a picture of something? Are you drawn in by what I'm putting out? Are you drawn in by simply by the fact that it looks like my life is good based on a picture? Or are you drawn in by the message that am I actually feeding you with something that is going to actually help you? Am I actually serving you in some capacity? So that's what brought me to the discussion on tonight about us striving for a more excellent way, us striving to do things in life that are actually making a difference, that are actually helping someone, and not just promoting ourselves in such a way that the world sees us as these little perfect creatures with perfect lives, and this is what I have, and this is this, and this is that. But yet the message that we're putting out is actually a message that will empower people and to help people and to serve people, especially those of us who are utilizing platforms like social media or speaking to people and doing all of that. You are there to feed these people. You are there to give them something that will empower them, to help them to grow, to help them develop. And that can't come off of superficial messages. And even if you're not on a platform like that, just in your everyday walk, in your everyday life, the thought of those material things being utilized in such a way that we focus more on those than we do on the message that we're sending out brought me to the discussion on tonight. So I just want to talk a little bit about perfection, because I looked that up, and I know we all know what perfection means, but I'm going to give us the definition of that. And it says a state, condition, or quality of being free or as free as possible from all flaws or defects. Now, I know we use hashtags like flawless. When we look in the mirror, we're like flawless and this and that. But you know what I thought about? I thought about even on my best hair day, even when I've just come out of the salon, there's always still one little fly away. There's always something that's not in place. So the idea that we're absolutely ever at a place where we are at perfection and there's never an error and there's never anything on us is not a good thing to aspire to be, number one, because there's a difference between excellence and there's a difference in perfection. So if you're striving for excellence, that's one thing, but striving for perfection is you setting yourself up for something that you'll never actually attain, because we know even in the word, it teaches us through truth that perfection is something that we're not. We're made perfect through and by the blood of Jesus Christ. And so on tonight, I just want to remind us of that this perfection, this message that we sent out that is all about perfection, like I've got it all together, it not only hinders you, but it hinders other people that are watching you, because the thing about it is you're presenting something that is not even real. It's false. And for those people who don't know any different, that doesn't help them. So on the night, I just want to help us. And also, when you're striving to be this flawless, this perfect person, it also puts so many pressures on you. I just put up a post a few minutes ago ago, and it talked about that, I said, you're human. And if you don't believe it, ask your emotions. We all go through different emotions. We have up and down days. We have all kinds of things going on. And that's because you're human. That's because you're not perfect. And when you act like you're perfect, that puts so much pressure on yourself. I used to be a person that is what they call perfectionist. I wanted everything to be just perfect. I wanted everything to be just right. If I got up to say something, if I got up to read something, and I used to do it so much that I would go back and replay what I did over and over and over in my mind. And if it did not, I always come back, I should have did this. I should have said this. I should have did this. But thanks be to God, I matured one day and I realized perfection is not something that God ever even required of us, because he's made us perfect. And so therefore, you're not going to get up every single day and say the right thing. Every time somebody puts you up to say something, you're not going to say it right. Every time you put out something, I promise you, you'll likely go back and look at it and say, oh, I missed that, or I missed that. But when you can look at those things and realize you're not a perfect creature, except for being made perfect by God, when you realize that in this flesh, you are going to have errors, when you realize that in this flesh, you're going to have flaws, and you can accept that, then you can love yourself from a place that say, hey, I did my best. I put out my best. If you did the most excellent thing that you could do, then you did your best. But you've got to know the difference between striving for excellence and striving for perfection. And perfection is not something that you should be striving for in your life. And so on that note, one thing that came up to my mind was to ask you, what was your message? What are you putting out when you went out and you've those of you who are doing things to help people, whether you utilize your music, whether you utilize your speaking, whether you're writing, whether you have a business, those of you that are doing something that are impacting people, check your message on this week and think about what is it that you're putting out. I know we're in this world where we take a lot of selfies. I do it myself and I utilize posts. But what I'm learning is that as I'm posting, that as I'm putting things out there, to remember that I'm not selling my life. What I'm doing is I need to be, and I'm not even selling anything. I want to encourage people in everything that I do. And so let's just say if you're on a health challenge, and you're, eating better and you're exercising better and you're doing all those things, take those things and share it, but share it from a place where I want to encourage you that you too can do it. Not just, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Because the Bible teaches us that it is not about us. It's all about us helping one another. It's all about him being glorified. And so when you're always saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at what I'm doing, make sure that the message you're putting out is helping somebody else. And so on tonight, the last thing that I want to close with is 1 Corinthians 12:31. And Paul was teaching the Corinthians about the gifts, the spiritual gifts, and those things that they should desire. And we know that that they had an issue. This was a group of people that knew Christ and everything, but they were desiring those gifts that were showy, those things that were out, the speaking in tongues and all of those things. And he was telling them that in this verse to desire a more excellent gift. And so in the King James Version, he says, but covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show I unto you a more excellent way. So one of those gifts that he said was more excellent than the tongues was being able to actually speak the word in a way that people could understand it, because that was going to edify and build up and uplift the kingdom better than a bunch of people speaking in tongues that no one actually understood or that no one was interpreting. So in the same sense, I'm going to parallel this over to us today. It's great that we have these platforms and we feel good about ourselves and we can put up pictures and we can do all these things, but you've got to be real with people, because that's what helps people to get over. That's what lifts God up. God said that, he said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me. And I pray that in what you're doing, that is your ultimate goal, that in your life, you're wanting people to be drawn to Christ through the life that you live before them. And with that means you've got to show flaws and all, the good days and the bad days. I remember a few weeks ago, I was in the middle of doing hair. And so my hair was wet. it. And I was like, okay, I still have at this 9:30 broadcast that I do, and I'm still going to get on. I've been on here on days where I didn't have anything on. But the idea is, it's not about what I look like. Yes, I'm going to be presentable, but at the end of the day, it's not about me showing you a supermodel. It's about me giving you a message of encouragement and lifting you, because that's what God has given me to do. And I want you to remember that as you're going day to day and what you're doing, that is what your ultimate goal has to be. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're a believer on tonight, that's what you should be doing. And so like Paul told them to desire the more excellent, he said to earnestly desire the best gifts. And he goes on into the next chapter and he talks about the greatest gift that we should desire or even act in. And that is love. He said, if we have love, we have nothing. So in what you're doing, make sure that it's not just coming from this self-love where it's all about me, me, me. Make sure that in everything you're doing, that it's edifying and that it's uplifting him. Strive tonight for a more excellent way in everything that you're doing. And I pray on tonight, I thank you all for tuning in, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on Instagram. And I pray that this has been encouraging you and something mindful, because I know you guys are doing some awesome things. And I just want to encourage you, because I saw some things when I was looking at different things, and I said, what message are we sending across? Because we want to send a message that's real. We want to send a message that shows the whole truth and the whole story, and not just the part where we look like the success. We've got to tell them how we got there, and we've got to tell them about the struggles that we experience even in between. We got to tell them about our mountaintop experiences and also our valleys. And that doesn't mean that you have to be, open to the world and spread your business, but that does mean that you have to have a moment where you actually show them what is real on tonight. And I believe on this side, I saw on Instagram a little minute ago, I believe I saw Greg put up transparency, and that is key. And so on tonight, strive for that. Strive for a more excellent way than putting up things that is not completely you. All right. Have a good night, everybody. I hope you'll tune in next week to another discussion about positive living via simple truths. Good night.